Good afternoon. It is May 13th, Monday, 3 o'clock, and this is a special meeting of the Jefferson Public Utility District Board of Commissioner. My name is Jeff Randall. I'm president of the board, and I am calling this meeting to order. Jefferson PUD will be offering both virtual online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak. And if you're calling in, use *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise a hand or to request to speak. So I've identified myself, Jeff Randall, president of the board and commissioner for District 1. If the other commissioners could identify themselves.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner, District 2.
Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3.
All right, we have a full quorum of commissioners today. Item 3 on our agenda is review of the agenda. And Kevin, or do we not need to have the executive session?
Yes,
Is that what I heard you say?
We'll pull the executive session for today.
Okay, is that going to be rescheduled at a future date or
Probably rescheduled for 3 o'clock on Tuesday.
the
Before
following
regular
Tuesday?
board meeting.
Okay, so you'll let us know about that. Okay, great. Okay, so with that modification, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Go ahead.
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a modified agenda proposed. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, and the modified agenda is approved. All right, who's going to lead us on the Auto Street presentation?
So we will bring up a presentation. The first several slides we've seen and we'll go over real quickly. Mike, I, and Melanie will tag team this to get through the presentation. It was put together by Will and he could not be here today because of some other personal time offs. So we're going to be talking about the Auto Street building. Used to be owned by AT&T, Alaska Power and Telephone. They approached us, year and a half ago and offhand said they're going to be moving out of the state. The only thing they own in the state of Washington is that building. Their primary business is in Alaska. So they were moving all of their folks up to Alaska except one or two. So at the time, we says, well, when you get close, keep us in mind because the way 191 Auto in this building, the campus just makes sense for us. So next slide, Mike. This shows you the campus we're talking about. We own the building closest to us. The double-story building in the back is the building we're talking about purchasing. It appraised for 1.16, which was less than our building. We believe that's just timing, how it is with the real estate market, interest rates, and prior to us even making an offer on the building, we said it would have to be appraised value. We can't pay more than appraised value. It came in less than they were expecting and actually less than we were expecting. So the red square here shows the property that we're purchasing, the building, and then the red triangle is additional acreage that they own. Or if you look at 4 and 5, we're going to use that for parking. Next slide. This is the floor plan of, it's a 2-story building, upstairs and downstairs. We've had several people in the building.
Yeah, well, we've had all three of you guys all three of the commissioners have had an opportunity to walk through and look at the space. We've had a lot of employees walk through and look at this space after we kind of knew we were moving forward with it. And it meets a lot of the needs that we have currently. We run out of space. A couple of the offices they have split. They're easy to turn back into whole offices if we decide we need to do it. It's got another good sized boardroom, big table in there already. So there's, good meeting spot there too for us to move. A lot of open space if we do need it. And it gives us a little bit more parking over there too, because there's days where our parking lot is pretty full. And with moving some of the PUD vehicles down to that lower parking lot, that will help free up some parking too. So then we'll go through these, we can go through these fairly quickly. These are just some pictures that Jameson, and we had him go walk through with it and get some pictures just to kind of show what the office building looked like, just to remind everybody, since it's been a little while since the commissioners have looked at it. There's the boardroom. The last slide was just some offices and some of the furniture that is there. Your boardroom, conference room. We have toned it. There is fiber running between the two buildings right now. So it's a matter of pulling out what's in there right now and pulling in new fiber, but
So they've got conduit going between
Yep.
both buildings.
yes, they have, yeah, that blue tube, this right up here
Mhm.
is the one closest to us, runs between the two buildings. So Jackson helped me he toned it for me and did find that it runs between the two buildings, so. Just again, yes,
Mike, did we get a quote on the furniture?
we did get a quote, we did negotiate, we went back and forth with them. We settled out 125,000 for all the furniture in the building, plus they're also gonna leave some office supplies and some other equipment stuff that is just too expensive to ship to Alaska. They've looked at some of their stuff and it's easier to buy new, have it,
So
the
we're
company ship it to Alaska than.
You don't really hear of fully furnished offices being acquired, including like office supplies.
Yeah, office supplies, coffee makers, break room dishes, everything like that. They're leaving pictures. A lot of them are gonna be Alaska related. They won't be APT related, but they'll be Alaska related, so.
Are there any maintenance costs, carpeting, roofs, anything like that? And with the septic systems are all good to go? I mean, I
I think
think I
it's
got the
good.
title, but.
Yeah, no, everything's good. They just had maintenance. They actually just in April had somebody come out and they put new screws in where they needed to on the roof. They cleaned the roof. They checked all the screws on the roof. They cleaned the gutters. Kevin did climb up on the rail, just check the gutters on the upper roof just to make sure that he could see new screws. They put in wider screws, so if they were stripped or whatever, they would hold better, so. No, I mean, it's ready, it's moving ready. I mean, down the road, there might be, like every building, there's always wear and tear here that you find as you move in and do things. But no, for right now, for our purposes, it's ready to go.
So I know when I spoke to the director over there, she'd had some previous floor plans when they really had the place staffed up. So what's our opinion of how many people we can get in there? I know it says 21, but I think she was almost to 30. She said she had in there at some point, obviously pre-COVID, but so what is the number we think we can get in there effectively, comfortably, safely, whatever,
So with the office, that's 21 offices, so putting people in offices, that's 21 employees. They did, and there's a couple open spaces up top. Let me go back to the floor plan here. Sorry to go backwards. So the second floor here, right here, this is an open area. I mean, it's got a wall here because it's open to the lobby down below. They used to have cubicles here. They had a cubicle here. They used to have cubicles, this open hallways in between. They used to have those full with cubicles at one point in time too. So they did at one time have that 30 to 35 plus, but it was crowded at the time in there too. So
the reason I ask is we're going to see the presentation and go on here to talk about the other properties we already have and what we're doing there. And just, I want to try and get to what the number is going to be after the purchase of this. So because we've already been informed, by the general manager that we might wind up at 100 employees within the next 2 years. So I'm just kind of looking, next steps and looking forward.
Kind of what the carrying capacity of all the properties together are.
So we can, and then we also have talked about possibly if we needed to give off, bigger office spaces to, employees based on, whatever needs are, we could, because take out a couple of walls in the split offices and open those back up to bigger offices if we needed something a little bit more.
And I guess another question I'd ask too, while we're talking about, is this going to be a public facing building or is this going to strictly be office admin type building?
Well, that's part answer down in a little bit later in this one, but if you, Kevin, you want to go ahead.
So we do meet quite a bit with, let's say the county. We met with them last week. This would be in this boardroom, that's where we'd meet with the county. It wouldn't be open to the public for day-to-day coming in and paying bills, but it would be open to people coming in, having questions, meetings with different public groups, that kind of thing.
If you had a developer or somebody had a development proposal, needed to go over plans.
Yeah, the location is good for that. There's a couple of big offices that can be used as short term as conference rooms if this one would be booked, something along those
And
lines.
maybe you're gonna get to this, but I think in addition to Dan's question about how many employees, just kind of like the division of labor, how you see the buildings being used, realizing that that may evolve over time as our needs change.
This building would become an administration building where the directors would be there. We would bring finance into the building. We're still
Right
looking
now,
at,
Here
finances,
and over there.
okay,
We're split.
and you're in that triple wide or whatever.
No,
that-
they're in the main building here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, the triple wide here, and we do have slides on all that, on
Okay.
where we expect everybody and.
all right, I'm gonna try to hold my questions then.
No, good questions. It's part of why we're here today. So, yeah, so, they don't believe that they believe they have a clear title. They're not aware of any issues on the title or anything, so. Once we, hopefully, at the end of this presentation, the BOC will approve us to the resolution that we have attached. June 10th is the day that we're looking at closing. Originally, the title company told us 60 days. We got them down to 30 days from today. So, and Alaska Power and Telephone is good with that too, so.
One other quick question on the back side of that building that we're looking at right now, our transmission corridor is just beyond that. Do we own right up to our transmission corridor with this piece of property, or is there going to be a green belt or anything in between? Will we have direct access to the transmission corridor from this property?
we could have direct access, but the minute the property crosses over, we have an easement on that property. We don't actually own it, where the transmission and water lines are.
So just some notes about from the appraisal report. They weren't, that we don't assume that there's any issues with easements or restrictions. There is ramps to the first floor entrances for the front and the rear exits for ADA. About $170 per square foot. Kind of the 2023 assessed values that they.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good square foot valuation, because this is only what, a 20-year-old building? What was
About 22.
20? Yeah, sorry about.
Yeah, it was done it was built in 2002.
So this says that the appraiser was not provided with the title report. Is there title insurance?
There, I believe, as part of the closing, we will do title insurance. Yes, when we set up the escrow and everything, that's part in the purchase agreement that there will be seller provided title insurance.
And they give that to us in time to review before we sign on the line. We're able to look at the
Yep.
final documents, what their title search revealed. So as long as there's no surprises.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is one existing easement on the property though that belongs to us, because when we bought Auto Street 191, if you remember, there was 5 or 6 parking spots that Mobile Lisa had sold to AT&T. So there is that on there, but that is to us, the PUD.
And so for the public's information, I mean, we're seeing the 2023 assessed values, at what, 865,000. So what are the rules for us to buy this property? People are gonna say, well, why are we paying 1.2 or 1.3? What are the rules we have to go by as far as purchasing something that's assessed at one value, but maybe appraised at another? Someone talk about that just briefly.
So we pay off of appraised. So you have appraised value and you have the tax value, which are different. The appraised value is what they say it's actually worth if you take it to market. Where the tax value is a little bit, usually they don't look at all the furniture, they don't look at everything, they just look at what it was compared to when it was built. And they do your property taxes off of that value. That's what part of that difference is. So we pay off the actual market value, appraised value. We had given originally some different financing options. The board told us to move forward with just cash. We have the cash right now because we still have some money, the fund, so the proceeds left over from our last RUS loan. Yes.
So because you did the financials for the board packet today, would you tell the board how much we have in reserves?
We are around 18
Oh, my.
million, I believe, 18, 19. I just looked at it a little bit ago, bank table today.
But that's skewed by the grants.
Yeah.
Well, so 4.6 million of it is in regards to the Reconnect grant. That's part of the reason. So once we start spending that money, but we'll get more grant funds and grant money coming in for reimbursements.
And I know monies came and went over the last year and a half. We have the 3 million in credit that we got from BPA on the redistribution clause monies there, and we're already a quarter of the way into the next one, which was about half that amount. So, and again, some of that money was money we said we wanted to go into reserves that was basically credited to us on not having to pay that money back to BPA. So,
Yeah.
So again, that's money that if we talk about using that money for this, that's already money that basically ratepayers have kind of paid. You know, is that a way you want to look at it?
Well, and it also is belt tightening that the PUD has done over the last 18 months to help facilitate some of the grant dollars that go out before we get reimbursed. So it's a combination.
Yeah, I'm just kind of setting the stage here for where we're going to wind up after this purchase, depending on what angle we take and other expenses we have to make. Because as we look at next, I'm already looking at the 2025 budget, expecting, we're at 55 million this year, and who knows, next year we might be at 60 million, what that reserve needs to be going into 2025. So it's great. It's a great number that Mike threw out there, but the real number by the end of this year could be considerably different.
Yeah, I mean,
And we have to be at 90 days per our own policy. So if we have a $60 million, budget, 15 million we need 15 million in reserves at the end of the year. So just looking at that.
We have gone though from 6 million in reserves to a little over 12 million in approximately a year. So, we I think have taken the guidance from the board and consolidated where we could.
now to get where we're answering some of the questions that have been brought up about where people are, where people may end up, what kind of spots we have. So if we move forward with the purchase of 193 Auto Street, that gives us approximately 80 working spaces between all of our buildings. That's the 310 Four Corners Road, which right now is customer service, billing, engineering, warehouse, IT, line crew, and the fleet. And that's building 1 there on the map, on the picture. Building 2, which is 210 Four Corners Road, is the triple wide that we brought in. That was going to be temporary while we remodeled this building. We've kept it on. The plan is to move the water team in there, so they actually have places to meet. They actually can go inside and have office space and not have to always meet and be in their trucks or outside. 3, which is the current 191, that would be the broadband team, the metering team, dispatch and substation teams. And then at 193, it would be the administrative staff, the GM, the assistant GM, HR, finance, communications, and other non-facing customer staff or non-facing staff.
So you kind of teed it up, Mike. One of the questions I had was how many field personnel do we have that don't necessarily need office space as opposed to in-house administrative or other types of employees, just to trying to figure out right now at 70 employees or wherever we're at versus the 100 we might be at 2 years. What do we expect the need is right now for actual offices? And 2 years from now at 100, what we would need then. Looking again, I'm hoping we'll get to see the organizational chart. I was hoping to see it today so we can kind of start to figure out long-term planning here, or maybe even short-term planning for budget purposes, is to, are we gonna need more space in the very near term, i.e. in the next budget cycle?
So part of that I can talk about a little bit. Somehow you have to have a space for each employee, whether it be a cubicle or a desk or something, for them to show up in the morning, do their time, come in at the evening, finish up their paperwork and have a designated space for them. We have spaces for most of our employees, but we have a handful, primarily the water crew that show up at Sparling Well, go about their business, and they really don't have a normal place to do business. So part of this, and we've talked about this in the past, trying to get them a space that they can call home and do what they need to, because, and I'll throw Eric's story out here, you know, he has things to copy, they ton of paperwork. Randy, who does sewer, he kind of has a little office in Calipoint, but it is very primitive at best. It's, you know, and so, and we're not sure 210 is where they're gonna end up. They may end up at 191 Auto. We're still trying to move and try to feel for everyone needs to go. But we're calling out the water team because they have nothing now.
Again, I'm going to reiterate, it'd be nice to see the current organizational structure and the proposed organizational structure for the next year or 2 years, so that we can really start to get our heads wrapped around, you know, what the fixed costs are going to be and what the needs are, as simple as just office space. You know, fleet's obviously going to be affected at some point as well, I would think, and other things like that. So it's getting imperative that we see what, you know, in front of us, really who those people are, where they are, what their duties are, and what that's going to look like 1 year from now and into.
So Dan, I'm gonna ask you a question. How I see this is it seems like we're acquiring space at a really good price next to a building we already have. They're connected together, functionally would work really well. I hear what you're saying. I'm wondering if we look at this as we're getting a lot of flexible space for our future, and can we expect that information during the budget process? Can we kind of look at getting that kind of detail from staff as to what they see for the organization in the next year or two in the budget process?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Most definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not opposed to, but again, I'm trying to wrap my head around as we start to spend 1.2 million or $1 million here and another $1 million there. And if we're going to use reserves, at some point we need to be thinking and knowing a little bit ahead, at what point are we going to have to leverage or borrow money, even if it's at a higher interest rate, because it doesn't make sense to be using the cash. I believe me, no one is more against borrowing money than myself, but I understand as a business that, you know, we're going to have to leverage money, borrow money. It would make sense to have a little bit better outlook on labor and where we're going to house them and fleet that are revolving around these purchases that we're starting to make. So again, timeline wise, budget's only 2-3 months away.
Right. Is that something that staff can, you know, seems like we talk about numbers a lot of the time. We don't always talk about organization, and it seems like it might be a nice time to do that. Is that?
I think the board would have an organizational chart. I'm looking at Melanie. 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to affect this particular thing that we're talking about today, but I think we do need to holistically look at each component of what we're going to be doing here, purchases we make or the monies that we dedicate, that we need to understand the bigger picture.
And I think we need to remember too, it's going to be dynamic. It's going to keep evolving as people become available or as projects change and morph over time. But I think it's nice. It's been a while since we've talked about kind of the organization and where it's at. So, okay, Mike, who's leading the way now? Is it still Mike?
So going to building one, this is the 310 Four Corners. This is just kind of more giving you some outliners of the seating plans right now, as they are right now, kind of where we're at, how everybody fits in. So here at 310, our main building, we have 24 office and desk spaces currently. We do have a line crew building that has one main office, one multi-office space and 8 desk spaces out there. That was a triple wide that was also put in while we were remodeling. So we do have all that space here that we can rearrange. Here's just another view of the triple wide trailer that's out there and how the line crew uses it and its floor plan for it right now.
If we went back in time, that was like the PUD 2013, you know, that's kind of the situation we had.
So here's building 2. This is the 210 four corners that currently has a substation, metering team. Again, it's got 5 full offices, 1 multi-space office, 2 open desks. It's got the safety. We got vehicle storage in the adjacent full yard that's, right there that we own. So we can keep vehicles locked up over there closer to the building instead of having everybody come here. Picture of just kind of how it is there again, like Kevin said, we may talking water team, but it may evolve and change around.
But it sounds like the water team will get a home someplace.
They have to.
They're gonna get a home somewhere, just where they end up. Is, and then here's the building 3. This is the current 191 Auto Street. Floor plan, building of it, right? The plan is to have the broadband team. Could be water team, it could be the metering dispatch substation teams. So it's got 14 full offices, multi-space office, and a reception open desk. So. And then building 4 is the new one that we're looking to purchase, which is the 193 Auto Street. This would be more for administrative staff. There again, it's got the 21 full offices, it's got a reception open desk. It has 14 parking spots plus the flat adjacent portion of it. It does have ADA ramps in the conference room available. And then here's some of the staff growing that I think Melanie will put together based on conversations with Kevin as well. Current number of employees, and this was back in March, I believe, 69, we're up over 70 now.
Wow.
Our official head count today is 73.
73.
Holy cow.
So. And then still got, so some of the 15 budget are part of the 73 now. So the difference in the 69 and 73. Still other positions out there that we need to hire for this year. Right now, the plan is for 10 next year, but that could change as we go through. So that adds up to that possible 100 by probably way before 2030.
You got more employees than the Seahawks have players.
Yep, getting up there. So that's kind of where our growth is at. So
We kind of practice squad.
Not camp, but with our expansion, we're gonna be pushing, we're over the
And
practice
I'm,
squad too.
I'm gonna point out on the new hires, because of some turnover in staff and stuff like that, we have a lot of instances where we're gonna have to hire multiple people to cover the same projects we used to have with one. Colton is a good example of that, where we're gonna have to bring some additional expertise in to help us. And those are where in 2025, that 10 will increase quite a bit to a much higher number. It'll be really a growth spurt for 2024 and 2025 for the PUD.
So does that mean that the 10 for 2025 is a conservative figure?
That figure's wrong. It will be closer to 15.
Wow.
So which I'm gonna ask this question again, I will ask it every meeting we talk about money or budget, is we have to consider where the revenue is gonna come from to generate this kind of growth. We can't just keep spending reserves.
No, but we're up to 73 employees, and because of some of the conservative moves we've made over the last year, we have been able to build up our reserves. So we have to get to a place of equilibrium where people aren't doing 3 jobs at one time and putting in multiple hours. We need to We need to put them in a position where they're gonna do one job and be very good.
Compartmentalize, is that the word you were looking for?
Yes. Couldn't say it, so I thought I'll just trade another word.
Just want to be clear.
So, and those things are happening every day. We need backup for people. One of our newest hire is to help back up Gene because, that's a known problem that if Gene can't be here, there was no one really to back her up. And those things will be identified throughout the next couple of year process.
And how many of these folks, pick whatever year you want, are associated with broadband?
In 24 and 25, I'm gonna say probably 10 will be partially because of broadband.
Okay. And then we also, one of the things I assume we've been able to do is we now have 3 line crews. I presume that we're able to spend less money on the outside contractors than we used to be spending.
Been very successful this last storm season. We didn't have to bring in contractors. And our response time was very, very good with the 3 crews. So I think that's actually saved us money in the long run. So
Okay, and the broadband hopefully is gonna be bringing in more revenue, even though we're adding bodies, we're adding a business line, hopefully that will kind of be paying for itself.
it will be paying for itself.
Well, since Commissioner Randall broached the topic, this comes down to to how we pay for the office space. So, if we use, I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit here. If we use reserves right now, that's electric money for the most part. So at what point is broadband going to be able to contribute to the cost, the fixed cost that it's generating? At what point, this is what I'm getting at. If we borrow the money, then broadband is going to be tasked with a portion of that loan and that debt, where if we just use the cash, they don't really, it's kind of, they're out of that, it's done, it's behind us. So how do we balance out how much load, no puns intended, that we're putting on the electrical side of the business to help support broadband hires? Let's use it in that term.
Well, to begin with, hires get paid for what they do. So if they're working on broadband, they charge their time to broadband. Facilities, a new building is no different than this building here. If they're in this building, the building is part of the admin and general costs that we do. So a
And
new building.
those costs are associated to each
Yeah,
business line.
We do, we have the cost allocations that we take out any split shared cost and split them out. Right now, it's 86% to electric and 7% to both water and broadband. So
That's it.
everybody does pay a portion. They do get charged their fair share of maintenance expenses, fleet expenses,
Right.
administration costs.
So that's annual expense. It doesn't really cover Dan's question, which is kind of capital
Well,
expense,
you can't, because you can't split up.
capital
You
investment.
can't, it's hard to split up a capital investment.
Right.
So like 310, most of the buildings that go toward, we look at the majority rules. And we're depending on the majority, it's a 95% rule which is acceptable in the utility world.
Can you
90%.
slow down a little bit? You're
Sorry.
blowing past me.
Okay,
Slow that
so
down.
we use, in the utility industry, we use a 95%. Where it says 95% of it is used for this one task. That's where you charge it to.
Okay.
That can be used for multiple things. So, because most of like the buildings here, 310, 191 right now, we'll have to do some juggling around depending on who we put in there. We'll have to look at it. And even like 193, it's 95% of the people that you put in there. Where do they spend the majority of their time? 95% of their time doing. Which it doesn't work quite with our cost allocations, but you look at it and go, okay, majority gets charged to electric, so electric pays for it. And then they did the depreciation expense to help offset those costs.
The revenues come out of rates and fees. So again, I understand what you're saying, Mike, fully understand the way that it works, but 10 employees is more than 5% of our employee base, and $60 million in broadband plant is way more than 5% of our overall assets. So at some point, that balance is going to have to change from 95 to something different because again, this is me talking. My personal opinion is broadband's going to have to bring its share of revenue to the table to cover its costs. I mean, it's just that, and sooner, not later. So this is if we're going to borrow money or not borrow money, if we're going to use money for capital improvements right now out of reserves, that's not broadband money. That's somebody else's money. That's the way I look at it. Now, I know your accounting works the way it does. So that's just something I want staff to be aware of and be thinking about as we talk about budgets. We talk about allocation of costs and fixed costs and revenues and rates. Something's going to have to change here for on the broadband side.
Well, and on the reporting side of everything, we do show that all revenues and expenses are allocated to the cost causer. So that we do have divisions. We have 3 divisions. We use division 1 for electric, division 2 for water, division 4 for broadband. That's how revenues and the expenses get. Now, when I do the financials, we report electric and broadband as one utility. We report water and sewer as one utility. We don't break out the sewer like we do the broadband, but they are all, and all revenues and all expenses get charged by division to the proper GL accounts. So they are all receiving the money that's coming in and showing that they are paying. Then we use interdivisional funds because we only have basically one major cash account, which is on the electric side of things. So that's how we show that everybody is paying their fair share.
This is all wrapped around how we're going to fund this particular capital improvement. That's why I'm asking these questions. That's why I think that it's relevant in the big scheme, holistically looking as the utility moves forward.
So this is the last slide that we had. Just kind of wrapping everything up. The original 310 expansion, was designed pre-COVID with an open floor plan, smaller workspaces, less than 40 desks. Obviously, with COVID happening, that changed everything midstream. And then also, we kind of just alluded to this a little bit ago, that the expansion of in-house employees reduces the PUD's reliance on contract services.
Are there any other contract services that other than, we talked about the outside electrical contractors that were coming in. What kinds of other contract services have we been able to reduce by adding employees?
So we've just recently made a split in the IBW union where we split fleet and maintenance out from warehouse. We're hoping now that our fleet and facilities people start taking over a lot of the duties that we hire out now.
Okay.
We're just at that stage. We moved Kenny to fleet lead a week ago. And hopefully this summer, some of the duties that we've been contracting out to the port and others.
Kind of vehicle maintenance stuff or?
Not only vehicle maintenance, but we have a lot of facility stuff that we hire out through the port and others that our people can start taking over. Again, we have a plan to hire some people to help maintain these buildings that we
Okay.
not typically, we have contracted out for the last several years.
Okay. Right. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, no, that's fine. That wraps up, unless Kevin or Melanie have anything else to add on building. That was the end of the presentation that we had.
Okay.
Unless the commissioners have any other questions or Kevin or Melanie have anything else to add.
I will say, we have, the commission has purchased workspace for us, and it is appreciated by our employees. We owe our employees a nice place to come in and go to work. And I do believe that helps with our overall morale and with hiring people. It's important. And we have nice facilities. This is just one more facility that will help us recruit people and retain people. So I think it's important.
So I want to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the offer to purchase the Otto Street building that we've been discussing.
We have a
Oh.
motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? And I guess now would be a time.
Well, I do have one
Okay,
quick question.
Okay.
So do we have a consensus or an agreement on how we're going to fund the expense? That's something we probably should discuss since we're saying go ahead and do it. We should make that decision as well.
My understanding was that the proposal was to take it out of reserves because reserves are considerably up now and it's not a huge purchase.
No, and I just want to be clear that that was the consensus and the agreement of the
Yeah,
board.
I'm comfortable.
Because
with
it's
that.
not in there how we would fund it. It's just that we're going to go ahead and
Correct,
purchase.
correct.
Yeah.
Nope, just want to get that clarified.
And it's kind of the absence of the general manager saying he wants to authorization for borrowing money or something. We don't have that in this case.
No, and I know good value when I see it. So
Do we have any, I don't know if we have anybody online that wanted to comment on this whole situation before we take action? Any hands up? Not seeing any.
I would just like to thank Joel before we do the vote and everything, because Joel helped out with the purchase agreement and everything. And went back and helped go back and forth with the AP&T, so.
Well, I think you guys handled this really well. And just having good relations with these folks right from the get-go that we bought the property that they had. We didn't buy it from them. I think Mobile Lease, whoever owned it after them, but we've inherited their properties. And I think that relationship has been beneficial. Okay, well, not seeing any hands, any other further comments by the board? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to approve the resolution to acquire the 193 Otto Street property, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. The motion is passed. Well done, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you have, hopefully everybody, I mean, it's so interesting for me just to think about where we were, like with the old post office building back in the day. And then there was like the property rented across the street. And then this property was kind of coming online. It's like the employees for Jefferson PUD have had to be, I think, resilient and flexible over time. I mean, who they're working with has changed, where they're working has changed. Sometimes they're in really not very good manufacture, these triplex things, these things are not very nice. And I think people have been pretty patient as we grow and evolve, and we're going to keep growing and evolving. So I appreciate that spirit of being open, assume that the organization is going to try and look after everybody and ask everybody just to do their best working together while we get through this stuff.
Speaking in reference to the old post office building, we know for sure that the bathrooms are functional and
Yeah, they do work.
Oh, man.
they've been tested. Yes.
Okay, so any other business for today?
We're hoping that Annette's gonna send you all the signature page. We're hoping to get that done as soon as possible. if we
Okay.
can, please.
So look for that, and
Yeah.
that needs to get done so it can get forwarded. Okay. Well, seeing that our business is done, it is now 3:43 and we stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.